12:45.
Yes, I'm ready when you are. Mr. Chairman, she says we're ready.
Okay, ready to go?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to start.
Okay, so I've turned on the recorder. The time is now 9:30 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today's Monday, March 8th, 2021. First item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Garko, Steve Kleinglass, Richard McCafferty, Ernest Wilbur, and Carl Shova is available on the phone. Supervisors, before we proceed, we do need a motion to allow Carl to participate in this meeting via phone. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion by Rich. Is there a second? Second by Chris. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District Council Andy Cohen is present. District Engineer Rick Schopperberg is present. Denise Payton, General Manager of the River Club, is present. Keith Livermore is also present, as well as John Scobort, Senior Field Services Manager from Zeta & Company. Before moving forward with public comment at this time, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gentlemen, please remove your hats.
Okay, ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the next item on our agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Tyler Cassell.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And, I see the first item on the agenda today is about the tiki bar outside, so I want to just talk about a couple of things. First of all, I know there's going to be a survey sent out. So if you survey 1,377 homes and you get 700 replies and 600 people say, yes, we want food outside, those 600 people will never show. So what you really need to look at is how many people eat here now lunch? How many, this is pre-COVID, how many people ate here pre-COVID lunchtime? You'd have a much better feel about how many will really show up outside. Now, did I come up for lunch? Yes, I've come up for lunch a couple of times pre-COVID. But I was very disappointed in the menu. Why? Because when I look at the menu, I see a hamburger, I see coconut shrimp, I see chicken tenders, whatever that is, and I see some other things on here that are what? They're fat, they're cholesterol. Who's your audience? Us. 68-year-old people who are watching their cholesterol, they're watching their sugars, they're watching their salt intake. It's not going to matter whether you move a hamburger from here outside or not. You're not going to sell a lot of hamburgers out there. People today are looking for better, healthy choices. That we can really improve here by changing this menu. All sandwiches served with French fries. What is that? Grease, cholesterol. Change the menu, and you can change it outside. Who's the best example around in the marketplace for a good menu? Well, the answer is Panera. Why? Good creative sandwiches, good wraps, and now they offer pita bread, like pizzas and so on. Good, healthy, no French fries, no cheeseburgers. How do they get around that? They serve a small bag of chips, and they ask you for a piece of, if you want a piece of fruit. Okay? Their kitchen, no grease. They use sandwich meats that are ready to go. If they want something heated up, they put it in a piece of bread, put it on, heat it up a little bit, and they serve it. It's much better choices. People will come here for better choices for lunch. I was disappointed because I came with some friends, and there were very few things on the menu that we could eat. So there's also a lot of people are moving toward gluten-free. There's gluten-free wraps. I just saw them in Publix the other day. So be careful outside. Look and see who your audience is. Your audience is us. People that are older, that are watching their cholesterol, that are watching their sugar, watching their salt, And also, a lot of older people are not sitting around out here all afternoon. Why? Melanomas. They don't want to get skin problems from sitting outside. So in this survey, you can look at the results, but basically use the results of what happened before to measure how many things you're going to sell outside. It's not nearly going to be what your survey is going to say. If you asked all of my neighbors, would they want hot food outside? Most of them would say yes. Why? Would they go there? No. Why? Because they think, automatically people think more is better. So they would say yes, maybe others would like it.
Mr. Cassell.
So,
Tyler, we're going to have to move on. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bill Sorrow.
here's the menu.
Good morning.
Hey, Bill.
You have on the discussion here regarding landscaping, and I just want to say I live at 130 Medici Terrace. I look out from my lanai on the berm and the landscaping, and the company that you have doing it now is doing an excellent job as far as I'm concerned. I'm pleased with the way it looks back there. The workers are very respectful of the property. We never had pine straw on the edge of the pond where the tall grass is. After they trimmed it down, that's there now. It gives a nice look on the border, but where I am, from where I see it, they're doing a great job. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Well said.
Our next speaker is Diane Wendrop.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to discuss an email that I wrote to Denise Payton on February 13th. My husband and I decided to have lunch at the Tiki Hut, and we hadn't been there for quite a while due to the pandemic. So we had never seen the entire paper project before. So when we were walking through and looking, what greeted us were dead plants, exposed hose, price stickers on planters, and stepping away from these minuscule details, I looked at the bigger picture of seeing the masonry, which did not match, the mulch, which was of different materials. And maybe I'm particularly sensitive to this because I'm working on a project in my own home that involves landscaping. So I've been looking at a lot of pictures of papers that are gorgeous. So what struck me as that there was no coordinated effort put into this project. Now, I took some pictures and I attached this to the email. We sat down for lunch and I started looking around at lounge chairs that don't match, umbrellas that don't match. Nothing is coordinated. It's a very haphazard approach. Sat down for lunch. A lunch menu had changed and clearly not for the better. I will not repeat exactly what Tyler said, but my sentiments are very much the same. And even something that we used to have, like chicken salad with avocados, was gone. The menu was purely pedestrian, and there are many missed revenue opportunities. In my former life, I used to analyze problems and was very skilled at separating a problem from a symptom. And what we have here, if I look at it on a very cursory level, is a haphazard piecemeal approach. And one might tend to think, well, maybe that's the problem. But in digging a little bit further in prior projects that I've worked on, often the problem is not the symptom. The problem can be something such as I'm speaking off the cuff here and I don't really have the background, but in my prior projects I've worked on, sometimes when someone doesn't have a budgetary authority, you can approve smaller amounts and bits and pieces before a big amount which need to be brought to another level above. So that could potentially be a problem. Now, to me, this poses a number of different issues. First off is our pool area should be here to service us. We who are paying nearly $4,000 a year in a CDD fee. The second part of this, which could be a bigger problem, is that we are in Neil country here. We are surrounded by Neil communities, and I am intimately familiar with ARIA because my parents are building a home there. And they have Charlene Neal, who is Pat Neal's wife, who is a design person who does design inside and outside things. So this is what we're competing against. And quite frankly, we're coming up quite short. So harkening back to my past life, I put together an email to Denise with pictures, analyzing the problem, as well as providing potential solutions, including revenue enhancement opportunities, as well as the recommendation of a food and design committee, possibly instituting that. I received a 2-sentence perfunctory email on February 16th, 3 days later, thanking me and saying that management would look into it. So periodically, I started to walk through the property as I would think any general manager should be doing, and nothing changed. Then 2 days ago, something did change. The hose was removed, which was positive. A reel had been installed, but right across, there were broken pieces of the irrigation tubing, which, created a very messy effect. And then as I went to leave, out of the corner of my eye, I see a flat of dead plants that apparently was not planted, was dead, and shoved under bushes. I think with the CDD fees that we pay, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect responsiveness and competency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Julia Salerno.
Hi, good morning. Use that, it's a little high. You can hear me anyway. Is that all right? I'm a recent member of the Landscape Committee, and we met last Monday, March 1st, and there were only 3 members present. I, being the new member, I've only been there 2 months. I've been hunting for information. Fortunately, I was able to get quite a bit of it from our liaison and Belinda. But the committee had recently finished the 3rd island down from the entrance on Laurel and added enhancements under the holly trees in the first 2 islands. That seemed to be a logical path, as the aim of the committee and the CDD is to focus on the main artery of our community, Veneto Boulevard, from the entrance down to the River Club. During the Landscape Committee meeting, we got into a discussion of where do we go next. And we finished the 3 islands, that was previous to my arrival. And now, where do we go next? But it's my feeling that the next logical step would be to continue down Veneto, remove the overgrown and straggly shrubs that obscure the view of the ponds and the golf course. These are the rows of shilling and oleander, many of which have grown way into the canopy of the holly and the oak trees. To my surprise, I was told that the CDD had approved a different project sometime in the last 6 months. The CDD proposed that the architect put together a plan for cul-de-sacs. Our focus and the budget to implement the restoration of Veneto and the areas around the River Club must be maintained. Veneto is our main street. Everybody uses Veneto. The cul-de-sacs are at the outer boundaries of our community. Nobody drives there specifically to see them. So here is my suggestion. Get back on track. Stick to our priorities. Make a commitment to this project and fund it appropriately as a separate line item, not a little from here and a little from there. Put the cul-de-sacs back where they belong as an ongoing maintenance issue for LNP. The shrubs need to be trimmed, weeded, fertilized, and grass cut in an appropriate and timely manner. This does not require additional funding. It is under contract. John Toberg has this in every monthly report. We should not be paying additional money for this purpose. Currently, it appears we have approximately $19,000 in the CDD reserve fund and $6,000 under landscape miscellaneous. These funds should be used to begin the Veneto restoration project. Pull out the ugly plants, make sure there are no weeds, and edge the beds. It will look a heck of a lot better. This can be done now in this year's budget. We have some funds in this year's budget. The Landscape Committee voted 2-to-1 to have the architect draw plans for Veneto. I was the dissenting vote. My point is we have some money in the current budget, approximately $25,000. enough to remove at least the shillings and perhaps the oleanders. This does not require the expertise of an architect. Again, we save money. We don't need to spend money on an architect to pull shrubs out. In the next budget year, hopefully, there will be a line item for landscape special projects. If at this time we feel the need to utilize the architect, we will have the funds available to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. So we're gonna close out public comment at this time and move forward with our agenda. Supervisors, John is present and he did distribute his report, which was also emailed to the board. Are there any questions for John before we move forward?
The question I always ask John, from 1 month to the next, how are things going with LNP? We had a nice comment from Mr. Sarro.
Yes. Definitely pass that along.
I think Bill's in the back. He came in after Mr. Sarro
Bill
spoke.
came in after that, so Bill, you got a nice, well, got a nice compliment from this gentleman, so I appreciate hearing that. Just a little update actually on the DG berm.
Right.
Sergio and his crews have gone in and done some, not quite rejuve cuts. A rejuve cut is taking a plant basically down to the ground. And some plants respond very well to that, some don't. A lot of the oleander up on the DG berm, just like that, along Veneto, I guess I've been mispronouncing that, has shaded out under the oaks. So those are some considerations that with the landscape committee, we need to take that into consideration in bringing plant pallets, new plant pallets to your design. Make sure that you do get shade tolerant plants, including turf. So those are just some factors that you might want to take into consideration. You'll note on the summary part of the report, the color of it is actually orange. And I put this on there basically so Keith can also be aware of this. I'm going to start doing this on every report, letting you know and Keith know what the upcoming fertilization schedule is. In this little paragraph, I'm going to say so many pounds of fertilizer for Bahia, which equals so many 50-pound bags, so that when they do arrive, they can show up here and Keith can be our eyes on the fertilizer and verify the bag count. So I'm basically just transferring the bid, what's on the bid form that LNP did provide us. We tell them using complete fertilizer certain times of the year, slow release nitrogen certain other times of the year, iron, when you can't put down nitrogen to green it up, iron does that during your rainy seasons. But we leave it up to them to tell us what formulas they're going to use, and that's based on their soil samples that they take. So that's the information that I'm providing to you and to Keith, and that's there should be something up there every month that we do get fertilizers. I did get with Sergio, the Washington palms. I think all the palms look great. They're still in the process of trimming the palms. I was a little disappointed in how the Washington palms are being trimmed. In our spec, we call for 9:3, and all the other palms are great. The washies, though, are more like at 11:1, and I really don't like doing that because we do use the expensive fertilizer for our palms, the palm special, and we do that so that as the palm fronds that are turning yellow and orange, they're moving that nutrients to the green fronds. So if you cut those off and you cut green fronds off, you're cutting the food supply to the palm. So that's why I always like to have like a 9:3 horizontal and only cut off the dead fronds. But all the other palms do. I think they're looking very nice.
Good.
So I do need clarification. Item number 11 in my report. It's on page 3. I have in the past, I think a couple months ago, right outside the gym, we have knitted a palm out there that's kind of obviously looking pretty rough right now. But I was told that this is not the CDD bed. So who can confirm? Is that the CDD's responsibility? I know it's CDD property, but I think it might be under Denise. Are you
on the ones that are inside the pool, that entryway?
right?
The River Club did pay for that.
Okay.
All the other property is CDD.
Okay.
We paid for it, but I don't know if that means that now I have to pay LMP to keep it up or whatever, I don't know.
mean, the River Club is the CBD anyway.
Right.
They're not two separate entities.
And I don't have a landscaping budget, I have $1,000, and that was to supply, plants for the planters. So if
So
that.
this is definitely outside of
L&P
that.
put it in, I didn't put them in,
Okay.
L&P put them in, and I would think that the CBD would keep that up.
Yep.
But I paid originally because they were not there, and I paid to put them in.
Okay, I believe a proposal for a replacement of that pump was provided to staff, so.
We need to, this is really for you, Sergio. When you make a proposal based on something that John has asked for, that's got to go to Belinda so it comes to this board. And you brought a couple to the landscape committee meeting last week, and that's really not their purview. Those are, because this report is for the board, for the CDD board. Any proposals that are made relative to this should come to this board. They go to Belinda, then she'll put them in our packets to vote on. Okay? We're all on the same page.
I had a conversation with Sergio. We had a conversation on the phone. He wasn't familiar with the process. This is
Yeah, it's just
a
clarification.
new area for him. He's
Right.
familiar with it now, so going forward, I don't think we'll have that issue.
And John, one area that I know you've had on your reports before, as you're exiting the community on the right-hand side, right just before the gate, the grass is dead, or almost dead, right in the parkway and between the sidewalk and the cart path.
Right.
I know that's been on your report before. Has there been a proposal for that?
We have received a proposal, and I don't know if you were standing there when I was speaking to Belinda. We'll be getting with Belinda. We had about 7 proposals that did come in after, they did not go to Belinda though, so that's why they're not on our agenda.
Okay, so that's part of this
Yes.
changeover in
Yes, we've
organization.
got
Okay,
about 3 or 4.
because that's one of the first things. Well, it's what you see when you leave, but
Yes.
I think that's something that needs to be done right away.
I
Okay, thank you.
agree, yes, and I also talked with Rick before the meeting, just stating that with the committee, I don't want to propose anything in here, like, for instance, I told you last month that I requested a proposal to do some parking lot median changes.
Right.
Take out the oleanders over there and put in some nice big, small sweet viburnum that will get big. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes. If I see something like that, I'll go ahead and ask for a proposal. But if it's in the 2-year plan or upcoming plan for the committee, that's fine. Just if that's a known thing, then the board does not need to approve those types of proposals. Up at Waterleaf, your sister community, they also have a landscape committee. And what we do there is my proposals here are basically what I call install and invoices. So when Sergio and I do the inspections and I see in a hedge full of sweet viburnum, 2 of them are going or dead, I'll just say, hey, LMP, install an invoice, 3-gallon proposals. That way the board doesn't get bogged down. It's just to fill in bare spots in a hedge.
Right.
So any major projects though would be a proposal for you to review.
Right. When we spoke about the buffer out here,
Yes.
that didn't in any way interfere with any further plan, and I think the board said go ahead with that. So
Correct, yes. And we do now have that proposal.
Okay.
So I was just introducing it to you
Right.
for last month. So if you had any questions on the report.
Well, the other question I'll have, it's maybe not in the report. We are way over budget on irrigation repairs. Do we see a light at the end of the tunnel, or is that a train coming at us?
Well, one thing I will say this, and let's see, item number 24. I don't know if you read it, but I got what I consider some pretty disturbing news during the inspection, and that's 2 areas, the Atala Wall as well as Medici Berm. I've been told that they cannot find power to the controllers on the Medici Berm, as well as no water supplying to the Atala Wall. And this should have been part of the 30-day initial irrigation audit. And we're very clear in our specs that, you basically have 30 days as soon as you start your contract to do a very thorough irrigation audit and bring anything to the board that is not operating. And things like that should have been in there. And so I'm kind of disturbed that we're finding this out. Now, I don't know if that is a new issue. It wasn't clear to me, but it is definitely something that I do want to have an exploratory in there and find out what the issue is with power and whether it's a break up on the Otello wall
Okay.
in an unknown area, we need to find that out.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
So, the invoice that we were referring to was actually for the foxtail outside the tennis office and not that, the Adnida or Adonida
Oh,
inside.
so it's, did you see the,
It's that one.
Yeah.
That's what that one's
I'm
for.
sorry, right here.
Yes, that foxtail.
Okay.
That's what I have, and that
Okay.
definitely is CBD.
Any other questions for John?
Well done as usual.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, supervisors, moving forward with our agenda, the next item on the agenda is the district engineer staff report. Rick?
Just following up on my emails to see if I got any responses, because I reached out to a couple of the vendors for some updates.
A little closer to the mic, please.
Okay. What I was doing there was just trying to check in with the vendors to find out the schedule. One thing is the pavement at Treviso, that work. You approved that, we signed it. I'm trying to find the schedule from the vendor. He just sent me his insurance certificates, but I was trying to find out what the schedule is, because one thing we have to do is notify the city what the schedule is. We want to make sure that they're fully aware of what we're going to do and when. So, and I'll follow up with them on that. Also, I was trying to follow up with the vendor on the sidewalk repair, swale repair, and the signage, but they've not gotten back. And I did find a product, and I've given it to a vendor for the guardrail post repairs. We're trying it out. We're gonna see, is this a possibility? If it is, it'll be great, because you could fix a dozen posts for about $40. So hopeful that this product works, and I should have the info for the meeting.
Okay.
On the radar reports, just really briefly, Padova Way, this is for the January. We should be getting February here this week. But on Padova Way, the percentage of speed limit violators is only 5. The average speed, and I look at the 85 percentile, because that deducts out the carts. And the average speed there is 24 miles per hour. Pissarro Drive up by the entrance to the golf course, percent violators 44. The average speed, the 85 percentile is 30 miles per hour. Benito Boulevard, the percentage of violators is 51, and the average speed there, the 85% is also 30 miles per hour. So, and the last thing I just wanted to kick around is the status of the pickleball, the dog park. I know we need to tell the city when we want to go back for the meeting. So I know Mr. Booker was trying to work with Lennar and trying to see what's going to happen with that. But, we do need to schedule the meeting. And I also wanted to verify the outside, the council, because we have not done anything with the outside of the council yet.
I think we also have to put the River Club parking lot back on the table as a possibility, a possible location. We don't know what's going to happen with the question that was asked to Lennar. There's been, I guess, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. You have
We submitted a lease, a proposed lease for negotiation purposes. And it was done about 10 days ago. So I'm awaiting a response. Okay, so that's it.
Okay.
And I've heard from the objectors, of course, and that's.
Well, we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket on this issue, because there is going to be certainly a coordinated effort opposing the the golf course parking lot. And we don't know what Lennar is going to do. 2 years ago, they didn't want to hear anything about it. Their upper management hasn't changed at all. It's still Tony Burdette and it's still Darren McMurray, and they were, no way, we're not doing it. I don't know. It's 2 years later, maybe they've changed their mind. But I think we need to also reconsider what can be done here. And as I said at a meeting previously, we got hung up in, it's got to be 4 courts. Well, maybe it can't be 4 courts. Maybe it can be 3. But this location, I think, should still be a point of consideration.
On the parking lot right here, it looked like the best we could get on the side next to the tennis courts would have been 3.
Correct.
That was the best we could do. We would lose all of the parking that's right there.
Mhm.
I believe we're okay on the parking requirements by the city, the rules, but I understand there are some events that we have that the parking what we have is inadequate. So, I don't know if you're looking to, because there's no place else really to add any of the parking.
No, and we're limited on space. We have what we have. We can't grow any more space. And I think we need to deal with the possibility that we'll have to reconsider this area. And this is, in fact, a recreational area. There'll be pushback. There'll be pushback no matter where. If this ever comes to fruition, there's going to be pushback. But this is where the recreational activities are. That's one thing we have to say. That's a reality. We don't know what Lennar is going to say. So I think we should be.
But we also don't know that the original place underneath the wires.
That's
So
correct.
we need to, I think his question is, are we going to schedule a meeting with the village?
Yeah.
Is the answer yes or no?
See, I see 3 things happening here. I see our appeal. We continually say pickleball. We never say dog park again. But you're well aware that if we give up our right under that easement area, we're giving it up forever, the way I understand it. So we have to go with the appeal. We have a letter into Lennar, and there's a possibility we could get 3 courts over here. So we got it.
Rick, I have a question. What is the status of the outside attorney that was going to help us with this? Where is that?
We haven't contracted with outside counsel at all.
Okay.
Rick filed.
So you did file?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
all
we're
that's
asking,
done.
are we going to have a meeting? That's all. Isn't that the question?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
let's answer the question.
Yeah, yes, we should schedule a meeting with them. They said the earliest they could do it was the 23rd of March, I believe.
That was when they
That
said
was
that
then.
2 weeks ago. So now my
Right.
guess is it'd probably be later on because they
Okay.
probably filled that slot.
I would suggest we move forward with that, because we had a 3-2 vote of this board to move forward, to file that appeal. So I would suggest we move forward with that.
I reached out to special counsel right after board provided authorization to that effect. And initially she was Patty Petroff, who's helped this board before.
Right.
Initially she was prepared to move forward, but then they found out that they might have a potential conflict with one of their attorneys. I'm not sure that conflict still exists, so I could reach out to her again if the board would like me to.
Thank you, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you have a direction there. We're going to proceed forward with the appeal.
Okay. Now, Mr. Booker and I were talking before the meeting. The previous to the board, we had a little exhibition out there just to kind of show the board, how loud it actually is. And I brought my the meter with me. I don't know if we want to try to revisit that and we could see so that everybody is more educated, with the actual sound that it's gonna make, and and I could figure out approximately how far we would be from the houses. And then we could, I mean, there's a row of the vegetation up there, so I could offset us about where the houses would be, and then we could actually hear for ourselves, is this really an issue or not?
What area are you talking about?
Well, we would probably set it up right out here yet again, but then we would be at least 90 feet away, because that's the closest spot to the closest house down there, behind vegetation, behind a sound barrier, and we could kind of try to simulate it. I know we don't have the sound barrier, but we could see how loud it actually is from 90 feet away.
Jack Wilson had suggested that as well.
Carl, couldn't we go to a community where pickleball already exists, move 90 feet away, and do sound meters of court play?
Wow.
I mean, you try to do a simulation, people may take issue with the methodology of the simulation.
Well, I'm not sure we could all go as a board,
No.
because we got, even the last time we got creative with the way that we noticed the meeting, had Belinda come out there with the tape and things along those lines. And doing it at a different location, I think would present some challenges, but individually, certainly board members could go.
Sure.
And I had done that. We have another
Well,
community.
you use the RSET, liaison and the chairman of that committee, along with, whatever testing you want to do at a off-site location.
That is a possibility. There are ways to do it. I'm just saying it could be a little challenging.
Let's move on.
We'll work on it. Okay, that's so we can get some closure here.
Okay.
I'll meet with Rick. I'll get Jack as well as some of the racket sports committee members, and we'll bring in some of invite maybe John Mokel, and that would be fair. You have all the parties there, and try to duplicate the sound, but we'll work on it so we can move on.
Okay.
So may I just ask, Werner, do you think that by our next meeting, the end of March, we ought to have an answer one way or another?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we got a couple of weeks yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll follow up with Andy and make sure
Okay.
that we'll schedule the meeting.
Okay, great.
I'll follow up with him for the council.
But I think from a design point of view, I think you should reiterate that the original plans provided that the tennis operation was supposed to be located there. Can you reiterate that too?
When we were looking at the possibility to put it in the parking lot of the golf course there, I ran that by the city staff, and they looked up their records, and they saw that this was, the golf course was approved. The golf course property was approved for golf and the tennis at that location. So, they saw that there. So, I mean, there was an approved use for a racket sport right there.
So that would not require us to go back for any type of activities with the planning commission.
I can't speak to that. I have no idea whether that's
Well, let
true
me
or
ask
not.
the lawyer.
I have a problem, as we know.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you
We
can't.
can't
Okay.
involve Andy in that. And this
Okay.
came up in a Zoom type meeting that Rick and I attended along with a few other people from staff. And I was surprised to hear that. I think you were surprised as well, even though you've been on this property for more than 20 years. That was something I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, and they didn't really give us a clear,
No.
the answer as a racket sport.
Right.
Is it interchangeable with tennis?
Right.
because it did say tennis. I know in Manatee County, we have converted tennis courts to pickleball, and that municipality has no issue because it's a racket sport, so they have no issues. Didn't have to go back before anybody. We just had to get the plans approved by staff. But I'm not sure what the city of Venice, because they didn't give me a clear the answer, but I'm sure they, so I'm not sure what they would do. Not sure what they do.
Okay, so we're going to move ahead with the appeal and also reconsider some of the other locations, especially over here.
Rick, are there plans pretty well done for the area over here that we just talked about?
I only have a exhibit because I think we had 9 different options, and we had, I think, 3 of them right there. We had some in this lot over here. We have not done the survey. We've not done.
But you've got some schematics.
We got the schematics.
Basics.
Drawing, yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Belinda, could I make a request on the business items to make a change? Could we move item D up to A? That way Sergio and those guys can go to work.
And Rick, you can also move up if you want to. Mike Krejci's here if you want to move him up so they don't have to stay.
Sure.
The tiki bar is number 1. That probably is going to take some time to get through.
Let's
So
do the cul-de-sacs then, and then we'll go to Mike. How's that? Okay,
Okay,
Linda?
so we're gonna,
Go to D.
we're gonna go to item number 4D, which is the discussion regarding the landscaping cul-de-sacs on Benito.
I think Joe Spinella is here from the landscape committee. Want to come on up, Joe?
Sure. Okay, good morning.
Good morning,
Hey, Joe.
Can I take some escort to speak?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so,
Use the mic, Joe.
use the mic. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here to discuss with you a topic that was earlier touched on by 2 different members of the community. And isn't democracy great? One member was on one side of design and landscaping ideas on how to move forward, and another member of the community was on the opposite side. And I want to make sure that you guys that record the minutes know that categorically I had no idea, and we had no previous knowledge that a member of the landscape committee was going to come in and discuss the item of the topic today. I want to be very careful that respect the sunshine law. Okay, so as was earlier discussed and mentioned by you, today's discussion and topic is regarding the landscaping of Veneto Boulevard of Benito and the cul-de-sacs. We all know the history, going back several months. And the history that I'm referring to is not necessarily the decision to hire the architect to provide a professional landscaping design for a community that lives within Neo country. As you recall, at the beginning of the landscape committee several years ago, one of the first tasks was to rejuvenate or prune or clean out older vegetation that was here for several years. And one of the first steps that was decided was to start to clean up Laurel Road and then some of the other property inside the community. And as you recall, that was done started by Brightview, then Brightview stopped, Brightview was terminated, and the contract of that. But there wasn't any other plans in effect or designs as to what we do once we clean out the old vegetation. And it stayed like that for quite a while. The second step was to do a redo or redesign or replanting of the entrance the highlands and the medians. And that has been completed. As you know, the first two islands were done by a bid put out to 3 or 4 landscaping companies. LNP won the bid because they were already on property, and they put out a REAP model that half of the community liked, the other half did not like, or different approach. However, LNP, Bill particularly told us, give it a chance to mature, and I think it will look good. In my opinion, the entrance and the couple islands, after a year and a half or so, it does look good. The third island, we had some issues with it, deciding what to do. And at that time, the committee was looking to rejuvenate the third island. We even spoke with John Tuber, and he suggested that we cut some of the ligustrum off, and he identified 4 of them, remove some other vegetation, and then plant things to repair. We got stuck on how much grass should be replaced, wanting to be a Florida-friendly community. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. But before that, we even the board came and we looked at some enhancements on the first and second island. We also, the group decided on some additional plantings, but also that did not materialize. So fast forward to here, the board hired the architect to provide a design for the third island on median. The landscape committee reviewed the design, and we also had bids to have the work actually done, and we assigned it to LNP for the same reasons. So, and at that time, the committee also learned that a design appropriation plan for the cul-de-sac was also proposed or requested from the architect. So we are here now wanting to do a little bit of different situation. We realized, the committee realized that even though the cul-de-sac could be approved, the design, I mean, and the committee can come to you and suggest that we move forward, there may not be enough money to do the cul-de-sacs all at once.
Correct.
There may be 2 or 3 per situation. However, Veneto Boulevard is the main entrance, is where everyone goes through. And as earlier was said, it should be redone in such a way that the 3 highlands that look nice now flow into Veneto Boulevard up to the river flow. So what the committee did about 3.5, 4 months ago, in talking with LNP, we talked about a rejuvenation plans or a plan of the Helix shelling. So if you have a keen eye, and I think you do, if you come up Veneto at the beginning, you should have seen for the past 3 or 4 months some shellings that were about 1.5 feet off the ground. And the idea was to see if those plants will recover and fully have leaves and fill in. Well, we realized after 3.5 months, that did not happen. Not only that, if you look around at the other shillings on Veneto Boulevard, they may be this tall. The tops are green, but the bottoms, they really don't look good. And my understanding is that it's because they old, they've been around for a long time, they don't grow well, maybe earlier were not treated the way they should have been treated, and it doesn't look good. So we thought and decided that moving forward with rejuvenating all the shellings was really not a good idea. Meanwhile, LNP did cut or rejuvenate the other plants that were right next to the shellings, and I think those are called oleanders. Those will come back, but the shellings will not. An earlier quote to remove the shillings was for over $7,600. So we discussed it, we had a discussion, there was a vote taken 2-1. And the committee decided to ask you or recommend to this board that we hire the architect to provide us with a professional design for Veneto Boulevard. So really, at the end of my several minutes discussion here, I want you to accept that proposal. Of course, you decide. Find the money to do Veneto Boulevard the way it should be, and perhaps even find the money for the cul-de-sacs when that design is put together and provided to you. Are there any other questions on this? Because I have another 30 seconds on a different topic.
I think we have money for the architect that hasn't been used. We had appropriated, I believe, $12,000. In my memory, we used $5,500. We should have $6,500 left. Yes?
No.
Why?
Because remember when we pushed $5,500 back into last year's budget?
Correct.
And it was never spent. The invoice came in after the new fiscal year. So, and we cut this year's landscape architect budget back to $6,500 because
Correct.
of the $5,500 we had intended to spend last year. But the work was done, but the invoice came in the new year.
Didn't the money get carried over?
No,
Well.
I've asked that
technically,
question.
You can amend your budget
Right.
to increase the line item again using prior year funds. You can do that.
Right.
But we can't code it somewhere else. That what Rick is trying to say is if we paid for it during this fiscal year. So that's not something that would be accrued for. So we can't move it somewhere else because that's exactly where we spent it.
But the money exists.
No.
Yes.
Spent last year,
Right.
last year's.
Right.
You paid for it this year.
Right.
But typically you didn't spend it last year, so
Correct.
you would,
So if we amended the budget, all of a sudden it would reappear.
you can amend the budget to increase the line item, yes, you can.
Okay.
Why don't you let Joe give his other comment?
Okay.
The other comment is regarding the separation of the landscape responsibilities and from the river club. I did receive some comments regarding the work that was recently done, and that just creates a little bit of perplexity on my part because I think, if nothing else, a heads up would have been able to provide us for some topics for discussion as people did come up and say, hey, what's going on with the landscaping at the river club? And not everybody in the committee knew that the landscape committee is not responsible for inside the gates of the river club area, the pool area.
Right.
That's what I wanted to say. And perhaps you may want to consider, if nothing else, a FYI request or forward to the committee when some of these large projects come on.
Okay.
And, but we know we have no responsibility for that.
Okay.
We fully understand.
Are
Okay,
you
that is
saying
it.
you don't have responsibility for?
Inside the gate,
landscaping
Inside.
inside the
Yeah,
gate.
that's from.
Absolutely you do. All that landscaping that was done around the tiki bar was 100% paid for by the CDD 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's not what I mean, Denise.
You
Sorry.
mean the one,
No, the landscape committee only has responsibility to take comments from the community and pass them on to the board
right,
as an advisement. That's what I'm talking about. We have no responsibility, or at least we've been told, for landscaping within the gates.
on the
So,
committee?
Yes,
So they don't make, I think what he's trying to say, right or wrong, is that they don't make recommendations for the landscaping inside the gates. It's clearly still paid for with CDD funds, but it sounds like something that maybe you and your team make the recommendations on, if that's correct, unless we need.
Well, the landscape committee had nothing to do with the pavers and all, that whole
Right, right,
project.
right.
That was
Right,
brought to you, you brought that to this board.
so
Okay.
in the years to come, when the landscaping inside the pool needs redone again, which would be 10 years, then they don't do it. It's just something that the River Club.
Well, that's the way it is now, whether or not 10 years from now, who knows what the
Yeah.
board.
I think what I heard Joe say is that if you want the landscaping committee to be advised of that
Yeah.
and maybe get some assistance, that
Yes,
you would
that's
be,
correctly said. And
that you would be there to do that.
there is one reason for this, and that kind of, in my opinion, gets in front of the problem. This is the second issue with landscaping within the gates of the River Club, that we had an uproar because of the process, another problem, because of the appearance that somebody just made a decision
Right.
without proper review. But I know that it was reviewed by you,
Okay.
the board.
Joe, before you go, I have a question.
Yes.
Your comment about asking for approval for the landscape architect to come up Veneto and do the cul-de-sacs. I'm assuming you're talking about all the landscaping along Veneto from the third island this way?
Yes.
And the cul-de-sacs, this big cul-de-sac here?
That's separate.
That's separate.
Okay, what cul-de-sacs are you talking? The monuments?
No,
No,
the cul-de-sac project is the 31 cul-de-sacs at the end of the streets.
Okay, different, not
That's
on
cul-de-sac.
Veneto necessarily.
That does not include these three big ones out
Okay.
front here. That's a separate project.
Okay.
Let me just kind of fill in. At the landscape committee meeting on Monday, I told them that the architect had been hired to do the cul-de-sac plan. That this board approved it, I think, in November. Sometime, I found out since that meeting that he has not been hired. The contract was written, we approved it, but somehow or another, he never got the contract. So it's no problem if this board today chooses to go a different direction. In other words, to put the cul-de-sac on the back burner, so to speak, and go forward with Veneto, there's no problem with the architect because he has not begun the cul-de-sac project. And I don't, where the contract is and why he didn't get it, that's all, not kind of water under the bridge.
Well,
But the issue will be, where will we get the money? If we amended the budget and put the $5,500 that we took out for last year and never spent, put it back in and made it $12,000, then I believe we would have enough money to hire the landscape architect to get the Veneto project started now. At least get the plan started now, so when we go into budget for next year, we know what we're talking about. Because I think this will be a big project.
Okay. And what you're saying is that we're not forgetting about the 31 cul-de-sacs. We're just gonna reorder the priority.
We're changing our priority list. And if the contract had been signed and he was in place, that would make, we still could put the project on hold and just put his plan on hold. But we don't have to worry about that, is what I'm saying, because somehow or another, he never got the contract.
If I understand things correctly, if we're gonna be amending the budget, we have to put that on the agenda, correct? Right, so can we make that as an agenda item for the future? For the what is the next one, 22nd?
You want a budget amendment on the agenda for that meeting?
Do you want to move, is the committee wants to move forward with this?
Well, the committee voted 2-3, yes, they voted that Veneto would be the priority over the cul-de-sacs.
That's what I'm asking for.
That was at Monday's meeting. That's why I asked this to be put on the agenda.
Inasmuch as the money was approved and now is sort of in limbo someplace, I think we have to get it back into the budget in whatever process is necessary. So if that involves,
I can do it for the next
I'm
meeting.
sorry, Lynn, I can't hear
we
you.
can do it.
We can do it for the next meeting.
Okay.
And Andy will have to prepare a resolution for the amendment.
Okay,
And then once we amend the budget, then we'll also need a motion to authorize the contract for whatever this new amount is with the architect. I don't know how much it'll be.
Is the amount known?
Do you know, Rick, how much? it's
8,500.
8,500.
One final thought on Steve's question, if I may. At this point, the board may want to consider having the architect include the big, the 3 islands here or cul-de-sacs coming into the River Club. Because that the design as it is now would stop at the entrance of the circle. And then we would have to continue. It may be,
That's an
since he's
additional
doing the
week.
work, he may he may just do it for less if he's doing it. I don't
No.
know how that would work.
Joe, that's a separate project. I mean, we can do that, but
He has a laundry list that he's already provided for us with, this is gonna cost that much, and as you
yeah,
move
the
forward.
River Club roundabouts are $49.50. So instead of 8,500, we're talking,
13.5.
yeah, which we don't have at this point, at least not in that line item.
Okay,
Understood.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
thanks, Joe. Okay, so we're gonna,
We're gonna go now to item number 4B, which is the discussion regarding the geothermal pool heating.
And before Mike starts, let me just throw in a little bit about what I learned, because at the last time we took up this topic, we asked Mike to, do his investigation, which he's done a lot of work on, but you also asked him to take a look at the contract. So
Right.
let me give you that as background.
okay,
There was an initial contract in March of 2014 for $68,000 to change. The warranty there was this was March 2014. 3-year
Andy,
warranty.
there's a whole write-up about that.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna tell you about the warranty.
Okay.
The warranty was 3 years on parts and labor and 10 years on the compressor and heat exchanger. That was in 2014. With that proviso that we're all concerned about, it says corrosion or erosion caused by chemical imbalance voids all warranties. And then the other one was added, the second contract was done in 2015 for $7,900. That one had a warranty of 2 years on all parts and labor, 9 years on the compressor and heat exchanger with that same proviso. So I just want to give that as a background. And then, yes, thank you, Steve. I do know that Mike put together this great timeline over the weekend.
Yeah, it's really good.
Morning, Mike.
Those in the audience that don't know who I am, my name is Mike Krejci. I served on the board when we installed the geothermal system back in 2014 and added the additional unit in 2015. I assume everyone had a chance to look at the timeline that I put together, along with some pictures and other comments. I'll start by asking if there's any questions on any of that material that I provided.
Quite good.
Okay. Turn this on. Okay, that's, everybody hear me?
Sure.
The two contract dates. Provisions about the corrosion.
I'm gonna skip through some of this, and I'm gonna kind of add some things to our discussion from before. One of the things I'm gonna add, and I'll talk about a little bit later, is pool chemistry. Pool chemistry is important because we had the failure of this number 6 unit, or what we call number 6 unit, and the contractor is saying it was because of chemical imbalances in the water that caused corrosion in it. So to me, pool chemistry is an important issue. The other question that came up as I went through some of this stuff in looking at the service work that was done over the years is an item that started to appear fairly regularly on this yearly maintenance issues, was the number of contactors that were being replaced. And I'm going to assume the board doesn't know what a contactor is. Basically, a contactor for these units, and I'll say that each of our air conditioners has one of these contactors in the unit that is outside, in the condensing unit. It is an electrical device that has basically 3 contacts in a coil. These contacts come together when the heater comes on and creates a 3-phase voltage into the unit to run the unit. And over a period of time, the contact points will wear. Prior to replacing my air conditioning system, I had to replace my contactor twice. They're not inexpensive. that was one of the reasons I decided to go forward. The unit was getting old and I didn't want to keep replacing those. So that's a separate issue I'll talk about. Okay, coming down to, and I'm just going to skip down to the summer of, well, actually the summer, fall of 2019. You may remember that you decided to have the pool resurfaced because the surface of the pool was deteriorated. In September of 2019, I received an email from J&L along with some pictures. That email and those pictures are in your packet of information, indicating that unit number 6 was no longer operational. And he included these pictures because his service tech saw staining in the pool. His letter kind of says in the pool surfaces, but specifically on the stainless steel light rings, the stainless steel holes that hold the ladders in place. When you look at those pictures, and I brought this to your attention, they really look bad. I mean, they look terrible. I asked him to send all that information to Denise. I talked to her, came over, we sat down and talked, we went out, looked at the pool. The staining was not near as bad as the pictures show. And just to show you a kind of a comparison, I took a picture of the stainless steel light ring in my pool. I maintain my own pool. And the light ring, when you look at it, is not, to me, stained at all. It's maybe a little darker. It's 16 years old, but it's not black in person like pictures from our pool, the big pool showed. But the picture I took showed it as being pretty black. So I think between the camera, the sun, and the water makes that look worse than it really is. Now, the tech saw the staining, he took the pictures, but Jeff Puterbaugh, who I guess owns J&L now, his father passed away, all he saw were the pictures. So I'm not sure he would have had the same position had he come out and looked at it in person. The person that looked at it, I'm pretty sure was his son, and I think he trusted his son that that was really what they looked like. Kind of a pool chemistry question. He said there was an imbalance in the chemistry in the pool. We could never get a definite answer from him as to what would cause both the staining and the failure of the geothermal system. I'm going to jump a little bit here. In the pictures that I sent of that geothermal system, you can see the large copper coil, 2 sets of them. That is the exterior coil. And when I first heard about this failure, I assumed that it was that outer coil that failed. If that outer coil had failed, we would have lost pool water. In talking with Jeff and looking at coil, Denise and I went out and took the lid off that unit and looked at it. What apparently failed was the refrigerant line inside the coil. And as I hopefully described in the picture, you have the large copper coil, I think it's probably a 2-inch coil, and coiled within that coil is a refrigerant line. That refrigerant line is in both the poolside coil and the water octifier coil. And apparently the refrigerant line is what failed, allowing water to get in the compressor, which once water got in there, it was gone in an instant. So my question is, how did pool chemistry affect that? Now, pool water was circulating around that refrigerant line. And if there was something in there, and the only thing I can think of was a highly acidic water. Highly acidic water, I feel comfortable we would have known about. I mean, that pool is checked every other day for pH. We have records going back to 2014 and beyond of pool ratings. So the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, is it wasn't a pool chemistry problem unless we can see something from either the manufacturer taking that coil apart and seeing where that refrigerant coil failed, or some other method. That's why I think I recommended that we look at having that coil analyzed. I talked to Jeff about that, and his number came off the top of his head, so I'm not real comfortable with it. He said they thought that it would cost probably $500 to have that analyzed. And it would involve taking the coil out, shipping it back to the manufacturer, having him take it apart and look at the refrigerant line, finding a leak, and then analyzing what caused it. I'm not sure all of that can be done at this point, but it's the only way that we're going to have any idea, if we get an idea at all. That brings up the pool chemistry. When this happened when this first came up in 2019, I was concerned about the pool chemistry. Like I said, I do my own pool, so I have some understanding of pool chemistry, what's good, what's bad, and so on. So I just, on my own, took a sample of the water, took it down to pool store, asked them to run normal analysis on it. Their test showed that the pool had virtually, I'll say, no chlorine in it. In reality, the chlorine reading was a 1, which they consider no chlorine. But at the same time, I knew that our records in our pool is inspected by the county health department on, I don't know, is it monthly?
I think it's quarterly.
Quarterly basis, and we never had a problem with the county. When this happened again, I stole another sample and took it down, got the same results. So I said, okay, look, is there something going on here that I'm just not seeing? So last week, I guess Friday, I took my pool kit out and I checked the water in the pool, and I checked the water in the sump where the pump pumps the water out of. Pretty much the same reading. Denise and I sat down, and lo and behold, she had a book with all of the pool guys' readings for the last 6 or 7 years. And we went through that. For the amenity pool, he maintains that pool, the chlorine, 1 part per million. 1 part per million parts of chlorine. So at least over the last 6 or 7 years, that's where it's been maintained. Now, he maintains the lap pool at 3 parts per million, and he maintains the spa at 5 parts per million, which to me makes sense because you have a lot of people in a small area. So a little higher chlorine level in there is reasonable. So I'm all of a sudden comfortable with what he's doing. But I'm still concerned about the overall pool chemistry. And I found a place down just off Knights Trail Road that will do a water chemistry test for us. We have to tell them what metals we want check for and what we want to have, what we want to get out of the test. The test, and I just ran through a bunch of the metals that I thought we should do. Looks like it'd be maybe $300 to $400. So it's, to me, $300 to $400 to me is a big deal, but I'm sure that trying to solve this, it's not that big a deal. Denise has told me that she can authorize doing that. I just wanted the board to be aware of it. If it's acceptable, we'll make steps to get that done. Okay, I guess I had put together some conclusions here. First, I think they should have been addressed in 2019. I know there were a lot of things going on at that point, but I'm a firm believer that when these issues come up, it's better to take care of them right away than to move them down the road. I said that I think it's beneficial to have the coil analyzed if the cost is reasonable, and I'll make some suggestions on that. I'm suggesting that the board approve the replacement of the failed unit with the understanding with J&L that the coil will be returned to the manufacturer to determine the cause of failure. Now, it's going to cost at least $500, so let's set that aside for a minute. And I mentioned that I found a company off Knight's Trail that can do this water, I'll call it test because you can have it certified or just tested. And I'm not sure we need a certification, but I'd like to know what all the different levels are. Yes.
If we have that water certification now, isn't J&L or whatever their name is going to say, well, we don't know what it was?
Absolutely. I mean, this is just to look at it now. If we had had that water test done the day after he sent the email in September 2019, I'm sure he would take the same position as,
right.
Hey, look, this happened somewhere between 2018 and 2019. I, J&L, don't know when it happened. I don't care what the water looks like today. That's why it's really a squishy ball.
But would this protect, it may help us going forward, should any of the other units fail, at least we have this baseline.
Or to stop them from failing.
Yes, or stop them from failing if there's an issue, but none of us think there really is.
The question that comes to me, and we've knocked this around before, the water that circulates through those, there are 9 of those geothermal units out there, right?
Yes.
Same.
It's the same water that goes to all of them.
Yes.
Unit number 6 failed.
Yes.
If it is a chemical imbalance or whatever else, what about the other units?
In my conversation with him, he said he thought the other units were compromised also. Now, those units were put in 2014. We haven't seen that.
Okay.
So, and he also said this unit would see the problem first because it's on the end of the line. I'm not sure how much. I mean, I think that was
Sounds like he's making it up as he goes along.
I don't disagree.
I think that just life experience says to me that this is a manufacturing default someplace in the manufacturer of that inner coil around this 2-inch copper.
Yes, I don't disagree with that either. The problem that's going to happen here is if we find a problem inside that coil, I'm sure the coil manufacturer's warranty is to repair or replace his coil.
Right.
He doesn't cover any, and I've been trying to think of the wording, and he can probably tell me, any other problems that occur in the system.
Ancillary problems.
Ancillary problems, that's right. So if his coil fails, yeah, I'll replace my coil.
Sure.
But I'm not going to replace
Of course not.
the compressor.
So the recommendation, we had spoken about this earlier also, there were two two bids that we got, two levels.
Yes.
And you were thinking that the more expensive one, which was about 8,000 or something like that,
It's $1,700 more.
difference, right?
Difference, yes.
For a total of about $8,000.
$8,400.
Okay, that should be the way to go.
I think that's the way I would.
Okay. And I think the board understands that we have to consider replacing this unit. To not replace it is foolish.
You don't need
So-
it right now, but you'll need it.
But we're gonna need it. We're gonna need it. So chances are it's not gonna go on sale. So I think we should move forward with the repair. I don't know about analyzing, the extra money on analyzing the coil. I don't know if that's gonna get us anyplace.
Well, I don't either.
I mean, it would be nice to know, but I don't see where it's going to do anything for us, because as you say, the manufacturer of that inner coil is going to say, okay, I'll replace my part, that costs this. But what else are we going to get?
If it is determined that refrigerant coil failed, let's say it had a kink in it or something, I don't know, let's say a solder joint failed.
Right.
At least we know that that's what failed. And going forward, the issue about the water chemistry kind of goes away.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's the only plus.
The only reason for doing it?
That I see.
That's reason enough, though.
And that in conjunction with us doing a water test now, we could do a water test say once a year for the next 10 years. And in 10 days after we do a water test, have another unit fail, and what's water chemistry? Well, we just did a water test 10 days ago and it was fine.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm not saying that we do a water test every 10 or every year.
But to analyze the coil to find out why it failed
If we can.
is valuable knowledge for us.
Right.
Mr. Krejci, because that inner coil has water in it, would that be so compromised that they could not figure out where the fail was? I mean, it could be so rusted and corroded if it's filled with water for these years.
Well, see, that's part of what I'm going to suggest. He talks about this coil being let me get as close to it. He talks about this coil being a hybrid cupro nickel titanium heat exchanger. Now, we talked about trying to think of the name of the other company. What was the other company?
Oh, symbiotic or
Symbiotic, yeah.
whatever. Mhm.
Symbiont.
Their coils they tout as being titanium. We asked about that when we put this in, and J&L said they had experience with pure titanium coils, and that they were not as good as this combination. But my question here is, he talks about the coil being this hybrid configuration. Is that just the outer coil? Or is it the outer coil and the inner coil? Maybe the inner coil is just a copper coil. That chemistry, some minor chemistry, and we do put muriatic acid in the water, not great amounts, it shouldn't affect that. Or is it the cupro nickel titanium also? And that's a question that I would bring up with. And if, having that coil analyzed may show nothing. And it may not be money well spent, but I think it's just an area we don't know anything about. And at least if we put him on notice that we're just not going to accept water chemistry as a problem, he may be a little more cautious the next time.
Okay. And we're in a bind in terms of having to use J&L to do this work simply because the other units are not compatible, so we got to do it.
Right.
So we're kind of beating a dead horse and, yeah, we gotta move forward with this. We gotta do this replacement, and if we're gonna do the autopsy on the coil, then let it be.
That's a good analogy.
Put it in simple terms.
You know, the old pound, penny wise, pound foolish. I think it would be money well spent on both, personally.
Okay.
You know, that'd be my recommendation.
What I would recommend, or what I'm gonna recommend, is the
I would
board,
support that.
is the board approve replacing the unit for $8,400. Contingent on J&L removing the coil, returning it to the manufacturer, asking him to take it apart and try to determine where and why it failed. And put the number of $500 in there. And then go from there. Now,
Okay.
I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. You know, one problem makes other things surface. I talked about one of the things I wanted to talk about are these contactors. They're basically electrical switches to turn the unit on and off. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we have gone through 27 contactors on 8 units. To me, that seems like an extremely large number of contactors. These contactors cost about $90 a pop. And I don't understand why they are failing and need replacement as frequently as they need. So my approach to all of this would be, number one, to put together an email to him. I don't want to do it with a phone call. Put together an email telling him that the board is agreeable to issuing a contract for the replacement of the unit, contingent on having the coil analyzed. And then I would ask the second question. I would bring up to him this apparent contact failure. Why are we seeing this number of contacts fail over this period of time? And get that addressed at the same time. It's kind of a separate issue, but I think it's a good time.
Mike, when contacts go, as with years ago, in a distribute on an automobile, the points, right? They could be cleaned, right? You didn't have to replace them all the time. Is that the same?
It's the same
with these?
Same idea. These contacts are usually they're part of the unit, and they're not readily cleanable.
Okay, so they need to be replaced. Yeah. Would a power surge, a quick on and off, would that reduce the life of these things? And do we have surge protector?
You know, it could. I'm not sure unless we know we're having power surges. And remember, or I should bring it to your attention because you're probably not aware of this. That system is not on the River Club transformer.
Okay.
That we have a separate transformer out on Bella Vista.
Right.
That all the geothermal stuff runs through. Right. All the pool pumps and the electrical inside the enclosure comes from the transformer out here.
Do we have surge protectors on?
There are, to my knowledge, no surge.
No. Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's a good question, because if he came back and said, look, this problem is being caused because of power surges, we can probably fix that.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because we have it in our own homes. I mean, we've all experienced it. It goes, the power goes off, and then 30 seconds later, it's back on, and we know that. We see the brownouts and all. It has to affect everything here.
I'll be quite honest, I'm not a fan of power.
Okay.
Surge protectors, but
it's okay. But it's a possibility that
it's a real possibility. And I mean, you're talking higher voltages, higher currents.
Right.
So It's definitely worth, and I think even more so to ask him about these contactors now, to see if he comes back with that as a reason they're being.
Okay.
Because, you know, it would, I don't know what it would cost, but we could probably do all of that right at that transformer station.
All right. Something to
Something that we
consider
could do
there.
through FPL.
Okay, so we have a suggestion. Thank you very much for all the research
yeah.
you've done, Mike. This is great.
Fantastic. Thank you.
This geothermal system was kind of my baby, and I'm a little disappointed that it's causing a problem.
Last meeting, we decided that we're gonna send Belinda and her family on a trip. We put, Harry Ornstein on that same trip. We're gonna, you and Donna as well. There's gonna be a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But thank you for all the work that you've done. And I think we have a clear recommendation here that we should replace the unit with the $8,400. I don't have those numbers right in front of me right now, but we did have them. And get the analysis on why this coil went.
Okay, the other thing I'm gonna ask is that we not issue that order until I have a chance to send him an email.
Sure.
Telling him what we wanna do. That'll ring out pretty quickly if he thinks $500 isn't enough.
Okay.
That he'll come back at us and say, well, wait a minute, that was just.
So on the, can we get that information in within 2 weeks so that we
I will
can?
try. I'll put together the email this afternoon or this evening.
Fine.
And I want to do it by email.
So
And I'm going to ask him to, if he calls me and tells me all this stuff, I'm going to say, I need to have a written response to give to the board.
Okay.
I'll make you the bad guys.
Can we say okay on the expenditure rather than putting it off for 2 weeks, pending the information that Mike is looking for?
That's what I was gonna recommend, if the board was interested in moving forward, if you
Yeah.
motion to approve it, I would prepare the contract, but I certainly wouldn't do anything with it until Mike had done the work that he's going to do.
Okay, I'll make that.
Do you need a contract for that now? I guess you do, because it's over what?
Yeah.
$5,000.
Mike, just one comment. We do the analysis on the failure, and it shows, which I think we're all convinced, it's not a chemistry issue. It's a defect. What happens then?
Well, the coil manufacturer, I would assume, would say, our problem, here, we'll give you a new coil. Okay?
In the unit we're gonna replace?
No.
What's he gonna do?
Well.
How about a dollar amount of that coil? Maybe the coil's worth $1,000.
He could
Okay.
give J&L a dollar amount off
The new unit?
the new unit.
Okay, that would be great.
I mean, the warranty was 3 years on all parts and labor,
Which it's gone.
10 years on all compressors and heat exchangers.
But he's not gonna cover the coil manufacturer is not gonna cover.
So I'm
The
not sure
compressor.
we're gonna get
Yeah.
any
So we're
money.
not gonna get anything.
It doesn't sound like it.
Right.
The best we could probably hope for would be the coil manufacturer says, yeah, was our problem. We'll give J&L a new coil, and they build a unit with a new aquifer coil, a new compressor, and put,
He doesn't have to, but he may. Just for
Okay, so
good
we
business.
may get something out of that.
yes.
Still worth it. I think we need to get the information.
But, right, the
Just as
answer, the
important as the
answer is
cash.
why we're spending this money, so that we know.
Well, I mean, I think our quasi-expert here, and I would agree, it's not a chemistry problem.
I just can't see it.
It's because
We
we
have a
had
motion on the floor.
Okay, so we have, I made a motion that we move forward with this based on the parameters that were set
I'll
this
second.
morning.
Any further discussion?
I'll go ahead and put together the email. You want me to copy everybody on the board, or just copy Andy, or Belinda, or?
I'd like to see it, so how about,
Okay. And then once I get a response back, I'll just touch base with Andy and maybe you and see where
thank
we
you.
go, and at that point, we issue the contract.
This was terrific.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike.
Quite good.
Okay, so we have a motion, it's been seconded. Was there any other discussion?
No.
Can we call a vote?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Carl.
Wanna take-
Before we move forward, does anybody need a break?
Sure,
Amen.
Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break at 11:04 a.m.
thank you.
Oh. Moving us along, Richard, moving us along.
I have something I wanted to talk to you about.
Hey, Mike. Great job.
The reason I've been joking around with the meeting is actually 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
That's right.
I think I knew that.
Okay. And in January, I had the prostate removed.
Okay.
So I've been going back and forth.
He and I talk regularly,
And
I know he wants that done.
today was my first visit
Do you
with
have
a
a
new
copy of
PSA.
Okay.
And it came out.
Yeah, can you send it to me?
So, and I had actually even prior to this,
Alan's working on
had,
it.
a bone scan done and a CT scan done in the abdominal area, and everything looked fine.
He tried to email me.
He had told me when they first started this process that everything was contained within the prostate.
How many other complexes you guys?
That's good. But
8 of them?
late, middle last year, the activity increased, and that's why they wanted to have it removed. So we did that. And, so, yeah, this PSA test was the first one.
Good.
It's totally insignificant. So.
You guys, take care.
All right, bye, Bill.
All right. Thanks again, Michael.
Did I cover okay? Okay.
Judge, you sure you don't need a drink, sir?
No, I'm fine. I'm gonna eat my grapes.
And then a cheeseburger, medium rare, no.
Ever leaving us?
I am. So
You're a sweetheart, thank you.
I'm just like, you guys, I sent something over.
Thank you very much for that. I got that copy of it. Thank you so much. That was very sweet of you.
Thank you. You did a good job.
Well, thank
I'm
you.
gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss all you guys too.
Okay.
You guys have a great day. You sure you don't need anything?
No, I know. Thank you. Well, I learned a lot about pools.
Yeah, well, that's, we have no engineers on this board. We have all educators, lawyers, and,
I thought, Carl.
yeah, I guess he's close.
Now we're gonna be.
I was not comfortable with the money either.
As soon as they see it, they're gonna. We can't spend $1 million.
I just think a kitchen out there, I said my piece. Duplicating what you already have is ridiculous.
Well, see, I think you need something to kitchen out there. And then I believe if we have it set up right, the operations will pay for themselves. And that's what this shows at these other facilities like this, or the big national. They make more money outside than they do inside the building.
But where's, the money is in the bar. The money is in the alcohol, not
That's
the
what I'm
food.
saying.
And that's- So we're gonna spend $700,000 and get 14 chairs? How much those people are gonna drink?
Well,
I mean, it's gonna take forever. I don't know.
we put the right screens out there. Because we went and visited.
Yeah, but remember when the golf course tried that a year ago, it flopped big time.
Golf course.
Yeah, everything they do flops.
Yeah. But we need, I can see the widescreens out there, guys, and expanding it somewhat, but we need something, I don't know if we need a full kitchen out there. We need something to make comfortable.
Yeah, but once you do a kitchen, you got the fire suppressant.
Yeah, you gotta keep two people out.
Grease trap, you gotta
Yeah,
put people out there.
We have to keep two people out
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
That's the problem, the labor.
Yeah.
The labor's working.
Now, if you're gonna close this kitchen and that's gonna be the only kitchen, I have no idea what kind of lunch business they do in here. We have no idea. When's the last time she told us?
See, what we did at our place, our club, Jersey, we put one of those barbecue type things out.
That's what I think she wanted to do, and I don't think we want to let her do that.
People want hot dogs, hamburgers.
Not according to this guy, everybody wants gluten-free. Bullshit.
Oh, he's wrong.
I was thinking to myself,
Wait.
I wouldn't have a cheeseburger without fries. That's impossible.
He doesn't look like he's gluten-free.
I just got permission. I wasn't sure whether I was allowed to give you what I was speaking of or not allowed to do it. So
I'll frame it in my office.
Please do that.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Julia.
then at another point, I need to ask you a question.
Watch yourself. Don't trip.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thanks, Julie. You know, the iPad says that I'm not online, but we're online.
What is?
It says on the iPad that you're not online. But we're online.
See, I have a different, I use my own separate one dedicated.
I did, okay, yeah. It didn't
But Rick, going back what we said, all you need is a grill out there, making some hot dogs, hamburgers, and
At 11:13 a.m.
Okay. You want to go back up to the top?
You actually
Keep
go to
going.
A?
So we're going back up to the top to item number 4A, which is the discussion regarding the tiki bar.
Okay.
Mr. Kleinglass?
Thank you. All right, so let me bring you up to speed on what's going on with the tiki bar. At our last supervisors meeting, we had discussion about two items. One item was to create a survey, and the second item was to consider doing some all resident forums to discuss this issue. The Facilities Committee met last Monday and had a hearty discussion about the survey and the forums. And the survey document that's in front of you was the results of that meeting. I asked that that not be sent out until we have an opportunity to discuss that here today. So why don't we take that first, and then I'll go to the second item. And while you're looking at it, let me also remind you that I have asked our architect and our kitchen consultant to not do any more work until we come to some decisions. Because I don't want to be spending money on design when we don't know what we're designing.
You know, you probably have gone through this with your committee, but number two, would you like to see the tiki bar, would you use the tiki bar renovated or expanded? I'm surprised that isn't two separate questions, you know, one for renovation, or is it automatically going to be?
That's the whole reason we asked it that way, was because this is not just renovated and, it's renovated and expanded. Would you use it if we expanded it, put more shading, put this, not just renovated? It needs to be renovated one way or the other.
No, there's no question about that.
Yeah, but it is the expansion. Would you?
And then the size of the expansion is where all the angst comes in.
Let me speak to that for a minute. I think it's clear, I think there's agreement on the board that we need to renovate the tiki.
No question.
No question about that. I think there's probably some unanimity in expanding the roof line to get us some more shade and covering out there.
Probably.
So
yeah.
I don't think that's too controversial. I think the big controversial issue that we've been debating back and forth is the kitchen issue. So that's my feeling.
Right.
Okay. I think I can, well, I won't speak for all of you, but to not expand that roof line and get some more seating out there undercover, put some TVs out there, I think we agree on that. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming we agree on that. I'm seeing some heads going up and down. Yeah. So it's the kitchen.
Right.
It
comes down to
the kitchen
that.
is the bugaboo. So, well, let me speak to the kitchen and the gentleman that was here that left us. The concept in that kitchen now is to be able to provide grilled items, and grilled items can be heart healthy, salads, and sandwiches that can be heart healthy. Denise and I have had some conversations, and the facilities committee's had some conversations about, should that happen? Should there be a decision to shift our lunch in the evening, early evening casual dining out there? There would be no lunch prepared here anymore. Lunch would not be offered in this setting. This setting then becomes the more upscale event dining.
Let me ask Denise a question.
That's new, isn't it? That's the first I've heard of that.
We batted that around, but
First time I've heard it here.
Yeah.
Can I ask one
And
question?
before you ask her, let me tell you why. We think that there's some efficiencies to be made in costs by doing that. And that's the thought process, really.
Okay.
Not flushed out fully, but that's the thought process.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Ernst.
Yeah. One question for Denise. Do we earn or make any money from the lunch menu here?
All clubs subsidize their food and beverage, flat out. It's subsidized. We do not earn money, but the more you sell, the more revenue you bring in. And if you'll notice, the last time before COVID, when we hit, I believe our budget was 700 and something, and we went to 850. That difference in revenue brought money to the bottom line. It's not a 100% profit because you're still taking labor out of that and the cost of food, but it's not as heavy as if you didn't have that revenue. Remember, if we have lunch and there are 10 people, and we have lunch and there are 30 people, you're gonna get a little bit more money out of that because you prepped for the food anyway. So now we're not throwing away this and throwing away that we prepped.
Well, following that line, are we doing that type of volume in here for lunch in these four walls?
Lunch is actually getting better and better. This new menu that we did is a 2-page menu, and it has a lot of the classics on it. It's got the club and the tenders and things that people are used to having, and those are really big time sellers. It still has your salads and some heart healthy things, and anybody that is gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan, we custom make for them, absolutely all the time. So it is more popular and it's growing, but it's not a sellout in here, absolutely not.
You know, I resonate a little bit with the issue that the gentleman spoke about, a heart-healthy environment. I think that's great to portray that. I'm not so sure that everybody follows that line of thought. And I think it's a good thing to have available, and I would hope that whatever happens out there, that can be in our thought process, that we ought to be able to offer those type of items. But kids and families are cheeseburgers and fries, whether we
That's
like
right.
it or not.
That's why McDonald's is number one.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, so let's,
Chief, one other question.
yeah, please.
If we send this, not if, when we send
Yep.
this survey out,
Yep.
and if it comes back a resounding no for a kitchen expansion, is your committee going to abide by that? Because in the past, there have been surveys and things where it came back a resounding no, and committees and board press forward anyway. So,
Let me try to answer.
simple question.
Yeah. I think it's important to get the survey out and to see what our residents
I totally agree.
say to us. My feeling would be if it came back a resounding no from what we thought is a reasonable sample, and we had some hearty discussion here, I would say we move forward and not do the kitchen. Because I think we got to get on with this. One way or another, we got to make some decisions here about the direction we're going. And so I'm to the point where I want to move forward. I would tell you that the committee, in a vote, we didn't vote formally, but in a vote, and in talking again to what we would consider our outside experts, they're all saying, you don't do what we're talking about doing out there, you're making a mistake moving down the road. We made other mistakes. So I don't, you know, I'm hell-bent on getting a renovation out there that meets our needs.
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I have no problem with the.
Okay. Again, I didn't want to send this out until you saw it.
I really appreciate that.
I don't operate that way.
I have no problem with, the survey going out, so it
All right,
gets
so,
an okay for me.
I would make a motion in support.
okay, don't move your motion yet. I want to go one step forward with you. All right, so to answer your question perhaps a little bit, Denise and I had brought up this elaborate scheme about how we could have people in here to talk to you all about this. We had, I think, 6 meetings set up. We had dates established. We had all this ready to go. We talked to the committee about that, and I'm of the opinion, and they would tell you, what are you going to show them? If it comes back yes, we don't have anything to show them. So what are we doing here? I believe the better answer is let us get the survey out. If you say yes today, let us get the survey out. There's a timeline here. I've already asked Belinda to set up another meeting for the facilities committee that's scheduled now for March 17th, where the committee will analyze the survey results. And at our next board meeting on the 22nd, we'll come back to you and say, here's the results of the survey and here's our recommendation.
Great.
What do you want us to do? So I'm advocating postpone those meetings until we know what direction we're going.
Yep, great.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right, so don't make your motion yet. What did I miss?
No, that's it. That's, if you'll notice, it's very short. The committee actually, I think we had 2 or 3 more questions and they felt they weren't needed. And, this is going to give us mainly a yes or a no.
People will answer this.
Yeah.
When they see something that's 3 and 4 pages,
Good.
Yeah.
We agree.
people will answer this. So,
Okay, I'm done. Any other questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Now's your turn.
Oh, I make a motion that we authorize the issuance of the Venetian River Club Food Bar Survey to go out to all residents.
I'll second that.
Just to clerk,
Please?
maybe I missed something. When this comes to my house, we get 2 responses?
Every email that is listed with us will get a survey. We also, it will go out hopefully today, and then we are going to on Friday, if you have not answered it, it actually gives us a list of those who did not answer. And that list Friday will go out again
Okay.
to those who did not answer. And then we will get the final results. We will stop. the
Okay,
survey.
so do you have both of our emails in your system? I mean, normally, is that what you would have?
Normally, we have 2 emails. There are still a few people that just do the one email, husband and wife, and they will get.
Well, I know a couple of people here, the only thing they have in the book is their phone number.
Right. I can tell you, my household, my wife gets a survey, my wife gets an email and I get an email.
Yeah, so that's the way ours is. I just want to make sure we're,
Yeah.
and so we both have the opportunity to
Well,
respond,
we want to hear from every
as many
resident.
people as you can. Okay,
And
great.
we send out e-blasts all the time. Please update your information. If you need to change your email address or add an email address, we're always asking the community to keep that updated. With the directory now, they're updating again.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
I need a second.
I'll second.
There was a second.
there was a second, I seconded.
Good for you.
Okay,
Any further
so,
discussion?
yeah, just, so on our,
I'd like to add something. You know, I heard about a resounding no, what the committee would do. With this survey, we may find that, I'm just gonna pick numbers out of the air. 47% are in favor of this, who respond. And 37% are dead set against it. That still leaves, 16% of the community. I think we as a board have to listen to the community. And this is, like any other voting system goes in, if there is general approval, no matter how slim the margin, I think the board has to act on it.
Okay,
Yeah, Carl, this is Steve speaking. I got some faith in all of my fellow board members that we'll get through this survey, we'll get some good information hopefully out of it. It'll spike other interest for sure amongst the community. And we'll make some decisions based on that kind of reaction here.
Yeah, there you go.
any other
That's all I
discussion?
have.
Any further?
Any other discussion?
All right, so at our next board meeting
Let's
then,
call the vote.
Right.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay,
all right, so on our next board meeting, we'll present to you the findings
Great.
and a recommendation.
okay, thank you.
All right, and again, the 17th of March is the special facilities committee. It's at 2:00, open meeting.
Okay,
And we're gonna advertise that meeting more broadly. Hopefully, we'll get some community participation.
okay,
What time is that again?
2:00,
2
2 o'clock on Wednesday, March 17th.
Perfect, that's before nap.
Yep.
Okay, are we ready? The next item on the agenda is the discussion regarding adding a storage shed to the river floor. So, Vesta did have someone come out to meet with Denise. Denise, do you want to give an overview on the visit and what was discussed?
Yes, I took, the Vesta, he was the operation of field management or something like that, with field services, very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable. And so what I did is I just took him into our storage room here, took him upstairs for our storage, the FACP, and then we took him out where the shed would be if it was approved and what our plans were for that. And then he emailed you the information. It was not here that long. I had lunch with him just to talk about the other stuff that he does in Vesta, et cetera. And then he emailed you all with his recommendations.
Well, he didn't really have any recommendations other than you need storage. Did he make any recommendations as to how you're using the existing space?
I don't know if you've ever been in.
No,
Yeah, no, he said it is packed out, wall to ceiling. There is no way to organize. Number one, upstairs, that's where all our air handlers are. That's done. shouldn't really be up
All right,
there.
that's, all I'm asking is, did he have any recommendations for better utilization of the existing space?
No. he just
Okay,
felt
that's all.
like it
One question, asked and answered. Thank you.
I thought his report was pretty good. I was hoping he was going to find some space, because as you recall, it was my thought that Vesta could help us with this by getting somebody in here who has some organizational experience, kind of thing. Obviously, that didn't happen, and his recommendation is you need the space. I didn't realize he was talking about the kitchen as well. You know, he said the kitchen is packed to the gills as well.
There's a couple little tiny rooms in there, and they're wall to ceiling with quick kitchen equipment and cabinets.
One of the things we discussed last time when I said let's table this was the compatibility of the shed, and will it get approval? I assume it needs a permit. And will it get approved for that permit? So that's still a question in my mind. You know,
I asked Mr. Shackelford about that.
Right.
And he said, no, there's no issue with getting permit for a shed. He said that actually was not the issue out there. He said you could have, it had a shed out there. And they decided for aesthetics to do a building instead of a shed. I think originally they were looking at a metal one.
It was a metal shed, and then $42,000 later, it's not.
Yeah.
But so I guess what you're asking is to move ahead with the proposals. You had several size-wise, and the difference was not tremendous. I think the most expensive one was around was it 9,000?
There was one at about 10,000,
10,200?
and that one, the difference was that one, number one, had stucco, which would match this. And we could paint it with our paint to perfectly match the building. Number two, there are two types of roofs on these things. One is the shingle roofs, which is not compatible at all, and the other one are the metal roofs. And two of the companies had metal roofs that had, it looked like fake tiles on it. They were wavy plus the little curvy thing, so it looked like a tile roof. The color does not match our tiles. Our tiles are more of a peachy color, and this was more of a not burgundy, but a more red terracotta look to it. It also had electric in it, and then it had they all had the garage door on the side and an entry door on the front, and this also had windows, not just for lighting, but if we decided for a window air conditioner versus a dehumidifier. My preference is dehumidifier, because the stuff doesn't have to be cold, it just cannot have humidity in there. And a dehumidifier inside, drilling a hole, putting the hose outside where it constantly drains and doesn't have to be empty would be ideal, and I assume a lot less electricity than some window heater going on. And
Well,
making
that's
noise all the time.
traditionally very inefficient, especially when you're talking about something that's not insulated. And this shed would not be insulated, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming it wouldn't be. And what was the size of the ones that you had researched? What size do you think fits us best?
We had looked at a 10 by 20 and a 12 by 20. And the difference is not very much as far as price-wise. I'd say about $1,500 between the one or the other, but the difference footage-wise is 400 square feet.
Right.
And looking to the future, that will eventually be packed out, if not day one.
And its location on the property, would it be visible to residents?
Where it's gonna be is in this back employee parking lot. The one that is against the building where our air conditioners are, we have the white fence that is there hiding the air conditioners. It would be directly in front of that. We would lose, I believe it's 4 or 5 parking spaces, which we will then put against that far where the bushes are. We would do parallel parking spaces there for them. You will be able to see, as you're coming in, probably the side of it, and there's one place that I can put a tree or a bush that would hide a little bit. We can also maybe take one of the white vinyl fences and go this way, but actually the building would be less obtrusive than a white vinyl fence because the building would match this building, and the white would be a little glaring. The roof is what's gonna stand out, it's higher, you're going to see that. And I could talk to Joe, and have him consult with Sherwin-Williams about a paint for a metal roof that was more conducive to the color of our roof, so it's not quite so glaring.
You'll have a very hard time keeping paint on a hot,
Yeah, that's
metal
what I'm
roof.
thinking, it's gonna peel and stuff.
You know,
I
it's
think
probably
we're
gonna
just
look worse
have to
than
deal
what's
with the
there.
color. Yeah, unfortunately, they don't have a decent color with it.
We had put, what did we put, $17,000 in the budget last year, was it, or 21,000? But that included the awning as well?
I think it was 14, I think they were like 7 or 7,500.
Something.
And the awnings right now, that's not gonna.
Right, so we have it budgeted.
Plus non-reoccurring we have.
Does that include some kind of ventilation for air conditioning that we spoke about in earlier meetings?
It includes a window, which if we did a window unit would go in there.
So you could install a window unit, is what you're saying?
Yes.
It would run all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I
Probably
think
necessary, don't you,
dehumidifiers.
Denise?
Yeah. Pardon?
I would think that's probably necessary for preservation, whatever we store inside, don't you think?
I believe, Mr. Chorba, that we will opt for dehumidifiers instead of air conditioners, because the air conditioner makes it cold and dehumidifies, where a dehumidifier, we don't need it cold out there. We just need that humidity out, and we could probably get a couple of dehumidifiers. They'd be quiet run, less electricity, and not have any kind of noise.
Well, I know I had a wall unit in our son's room, we lived in the Oaks, and you can control both heat and air, so for humidity in both instances.
A wall unit air conditioner?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are mini
It's a
splits.
Mitsubishi.
Yeah, those are mini splits, and they are $4,000 to $5,000 now.
Yeah, I know.
They're
Not
pricey.
cheap.
You have power out there?
We do have power.
All right. Okay, well, I'll make a motion then that we proceed forward with the building of the shed in the larger unit, the
12 by 20.
12 by 20 to add some additional space.
And the one that is with the stucco, et cetera, it is in Charlotte County, and he said he could not get a permit. If Rick Shapaker cannot get a permit for me, because I think it has to be somebody who's got some kind of contract.
Well, is he licensed in Sarasota County?
Not in Sarasota County.
Then we can't use him.
Oh, yeah, and, well, there's another one that's in Sarasota. It's not stucco, but it is the siding that can be painted, and it's not a metal slick siding. It's not the hardy board, but it's like a hardy board that is fireproof.
Right.
And that we could use. If Mr. Shapaker cannot get this permit for us, then I will go with the Sarasota one, and it may be $800 cheaper.
Well, we need to use a vendor that's licensed in Sarasota
They have to
County.
be actually licensed in.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right,
yes,
we'll
that's-
go with the Sarasota one.
Well, he may have a license in more than one place. His location is in Charlotte County.
No, he told me he couldn't
He's
get
not.
a
Oh,
permit here.
no, then-
He said, I cannot get a permit,
Then
but he can
unfortunately,
deliver if we did the permitting process, he said. So I don't know.
I think we want the contractor to handle the entire process.
yes, we want the
Okay,
contractor to
we'll
handle
go with Sarasota, Superior Sheds.
it. Okay, so do we want to say like not to exceed
Whatever the board's comfortable with.
11,000?
I'm comfortable with
That's
that in case we
sufficient.
have to do some.
Okay, then I'll make a
Did
motion.
I hear 20,000?
No,
11.
11. I'll make a motion that we proceed with a not to exceed amount of $11,000.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Okay,
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries 4 in favor, 1 against.
I voted aye. I don't know.
Yeah, we got it, Carl.
Rick McCafferty voted against.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, Rick.
That's okay. I'll get over it.
Okay, so moving forward, supervisors, the next item on the agenda is item number 4E, which is the consideration of the memorandum of understanding related to the E-Verify program. This is behind tab number 1 for your review.
Thank you, I can take the lead on this.
What's the short version of this?
Short version, new law, January 1st, that
Okay.
requires, of this year, that requires public employers to utilize the E-Verify system. So next question, are we a public employer if we don't have any
I
employees?
saw that.
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
And the definition of public employer names all these different things and then says, and enters or attempts to enter into a contract with a contractor. So the mere fact that we enter into contracts with vendors all the time to pressure wash our sidewalk or build a fence or whatever makes us qualify as a public employer. So what that means is 2 things. One is we have to register on this system with the Department of Homeland Security, meaning we have to execute this memorandum of understanding, the MOU, that's in your agenda package. It's the first item. Second item, which we've already implemented, is that our office now prepare a provision in every contract that we enter into that requires our vendor to certify that they're utilizing the E-Verify system. And if they're not, all this bad things happens to them. So today, what we need is just a motion to authorize execution of the MOU. By the chairman is what I think you have the signature for, and Belinda will be what they call the representative. And then Belinda's office will go online and you have to answer some questions and do the registration.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Andy, my question for you is, I haven't read through all of this.
Yes.
We have no, even though we're a public entity, we have no employees. We have to use this E-Verify through the contractors that we maintain.
Yes, I mentioned, I know it's hard to hear on the phone, Carl, but there is a provision right in the new statute in the definition of public employer, and that encompasses basically an entity that enters or attempts to enter into a contract with a contractor. So the mere fact that we contract with vendors all the time, like I said, to build a fence or pressure wash the sidewalk or whatever, makes us qualified, even though we have 0 employees.
Okay. Sounds like it'll be a time-consuming process for us.
Hopefully not. I mean, the system that they've set up is fairly simple. It will be for some of our vendors, but you know what? We want to make sure that they do have employees that are correct and everything is in order.
So the onus is on the vendor. We have to
register.
We have to register, right?
But yeah, in the end, they're the ones, if we hired an employee, let's assume that we decided tomorrow to hire our own direct employee.
Right.
Then we would have to go through
Correct.
the system and verify them and everything along those lines. But right now, absent us hiring any direct employees, the majority of the work is going to be on the vendors that we utilize.
Okay.
Andy, does this include River Club vendors?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
So all of our vendors have to be verified?
yes, yes.
Okay. So there's no
choice, really.
There's no choice on this. So do we need a motion to move ahead or?
We did,
Well,
and I
there's a
think,
motion
I think
and
you
there's a
made one.
second.
Right.
But I think Belinda was just checking to see where Ernest might be.
I had an emergency call. What's the motion?
That we accept this.
Move forward with the E-Verify.
We register as an E-Verify.
Okay. So it's been, we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any other discussion?
No?
All those in favor,
Call the vote.
please state aye.
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 All right.
All right, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the review and consideration of the Reserve Advisory Committee Charter. This is more of an update, correct, Rich?
Yeah, it's an update, really. The first meeting of I'll combine item number 1 with item F. The first meeting of the Reserve Advisory Committee went very, very well. It was a week ago Friday, and our next meeting is this coming Monday at 2 o'clock. That's the 15th. The charter is not ready to be presented at this moment because there are There's input from the members, and we will finalize it, I'm sure, at the March 15th meeting and move forward from there. And all is going well. Denise attended that meeting as well. She was very helpful there, and I'm assuming she's going to be at all the meetings that she can attend. So that's about all I have to say. It's a good group of people. They come from, as I had said before, they come from wide experience in their backgrounds, and everybody got along extremely well. They didn't really know one another for the most part, and some did. But I think it's a good committee. I'm looking forward to working with them.
Rich, can I ask, I know we have sunshine laws, but when the charter is ready, can we get it into one of the tabs of the next two agenda meetings, so we can all review it?
Absolutely. Oh, it's going to be, as soon as the committee, dots all the i's and crosses the t's and everybody agrees to it, it'll be sent to Belinda. It'll become a part of a board package.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving forward, the next item on the agenda is item number 5A, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on February 8th, 2021. These are behind tab number 2 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
It's a small book. It's a mere 20 pages.
So the next minutes were so nice to look at.
That's part of my comments. The next minutes
That
are
was
really
awesome.
very nice to look at.
Any questions, comments, or changes?
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
There's a motion by Rich.
Second.
Second by Carl. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of the operation and maintenance expenditures for the month of February 2021. These are behind tab number 3 for your review. The expenditures for the period of February 1st to 28th, 2021 totals $138,606.09. Any questions regarding the O&M?
I just have a question about Victory. There were 3 invoices, April, June, and October of 2020. They're that far behind on billing
They
us?
submitted those invoices to us recently for payment.
Wow. I wish they would get them in. I mean, we're going back to previous years.
Yeah.
That's my only observation.
I move we accept the expenditures as presented.
I'll second that.
Second by Rich. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. So now we're going to move forward with the consent items. We do have one item under consent items, which is the acceptance of the landscaping advisory committee meeting minutes of February 2nd, 2021. These are behind tab number 4.
I move we accept those minutes.
There's a motion by Rick. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. We're going to move on to staff reports. Andy, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, just 2 quick items. The first is just follow up that I worked with Carrie and we have the ads prepared, and the public hearing on the tennis and river club rules will be at your April 26th.
April
26th, your
26th.
second meeting in April.
Okay.
So that's all set for that. I will, just a reminder, everybody knows already, but I will be doing the sunshine presentation on
22nd.
the 22nd, right, our next meeting before, at 8:30, before we begin our regular meeting.
So, Andy,
Yes.
just so I've got the notes right. When is the public notice? What date is it for?
April the 26th, Carl.
Thank you.
Sure. And then, not to steal Mr. Booker's thunder, or lack thereof, but
Yeah.
everyone just got an email that Lennar, during the meeting here, wrote him and that they have declined moving forward with potential site for the pickleball courts.
So we set it out, okay?
Yep. So yes, you did get a copy of that email. You'll see what they write there. There's nothing ultra specific, just saying that they have it for sale and perhaps a new owner might have an interest, but they don't at this time.
That's why, when Rick was here, I said we can't devote
Put all
all our
our eggs in one
efforts there
basket.
because
Yep, very well done.
I didn't anticipate that they had changed their mind over the last 2 years. I want to say thank you to Ernest for investigating this. I think it was a good location to be considered, and you did a lot of work on it. And thanks for doing that. We'll put our efforts in another.
And who knows, maybe it won't be lost. I mean, maybe
Yep.
sometime in the future it could be resurrected.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So unless there's any questions, those are the only items I have right now.
Any questions for Andy? Denise, do you have anything to report?
The Ritzman contract for the lights. I had asked them, would they be willing to put a warranty into the contract? And could he send me something? He did not send me anything, so I called him and said, if we put it in the contract, would you still sign the contract? And he said, yes, go ahead and put it in. So Andy is going to be doing up the contract with a 1-year warranty for the painting of the lights. The basketball hoop has been ordered. It's supposed to be coming in today. It'll need some assembly. We'll get
Denise,
that.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. We don't have the mic. We don't have the- Thank you. The basketball hoop has been ordered. It'll be in today. It'll have some assembly being needed to be done, and we have the sand ready for it. I also ordered some signage, which will put the parking lot, no parking between 12:30 and 6:30, and giving a small reason underneath. It'll be one of the nice signs that we were using before. I will put one of them out there. I think I only ordered one. Mainly, I wanted to double check that timing was going to work before ordering another one, whether it needed tweaked a little bit. Then the other thing, while we were discussing the shed, Jerry Jasper, who's a planning commissioner, emailed us on the thing and said, you need to talk to the planning commission about this. So I'm going to talk to Mr. Shapliker and ask him to check into this for us.
Sure.
Before moving forward. So I appreciate that we have that opportunity to have somebody put in a comment. And last but not least, the transfer of power at the River Club, still in process. Had a couple of little glitches, but they're coming along bit by bit. Onboarding of employees, still working on a few little things here. It's a lot of new computer information that we have to learn, and it's getting there, going through. So no major crash and burns or anything like that. So we'll get there soon. And that's all I can think of. Any questions? Mr. McCaffrey?
Yeah, I mean, with the facilities committee or the social committee, have you ever given the numbers of people who eat lunch like pre-COVID and during COVID and now? Can we get that kind of information, or have you done it?
I'm sure I have. I can't think of what.
No, I don't want it right now, but
No, but I can get that information and just send it to the board because.
it'd be nice to have that before we have the discussion at the next meeting relative to how the Tiki Bar survey comes out, I think.
Yes, I can do the sales at the Tiki Bar and the sales in the dining room. I can differentiate between the two.
Yeah. Maybe the last year or two, something. I'm not trying to make a lot of work for you,
No,
but
I understand. That kind of information is.
I think it'd be very helpful for the
Yes.
committee or for the
We
board.
can do that. And
Okay.
I also was asking Chef to give me some information where we had the two comments regarding healthier food, better menu. This menu is actually our most popular menu. Number one, it's larger. Number two, it has the classics. And he has done healthy menus in the past. They don't sell.
Right.
And everybody can do their specialty stuff, like we said before. So we will get that information.
Never please all the people all the time.
The information that Rick is asking for, you need to take a look at the 2018, 2019 budget year and versus 2019, 2020, because that's when, we dropped off a cliff, starting in March.
And I would probably do all three. I would do pre, during,
Yeah, that'd really
and
be
now,
helpful.
and you can see where it's climbing.
Thank you.
One of the things that, I heard what Tyler said. I don't necessarily agree with every aspect of what he said, but if we could put calorie count on the menu, as they do in like Chili's and places like that, that might be a help, before you order the salad covered with you're ordering a salad because you think it's great, and then it's got blue cheese dressing and bacon and this and that, and it's 1,200 calories, and you could have had the burger for 500.
Wait.
Salad, it's a green thing. You wouldn't understand it. But you know what?
The bacon, the egg is the only thing I eat.
I personally love that when a restaurant does it.
Yeah.
I surveyed clubs and they said they would never do that.
Really?
Only
Okay.
because in the club industry, you're using chefs. You're not using line cooks. And chefs use a lot of
Yeah, well, it could
calories,
be,
creams,
approximate.
butters. You start putting your calories in that, you're gonna lose some sales.
Some places they'll say between 850 and 1,000 or
Yeah.
something like that. So they leave room for the extra butter or the little bit of this or that.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion. I don't know if it can be done, but
And we could do a section of a low calorie thing, where this is the low calorie.
Right.
And I'll talk to Chef about that. I think we had
Yeah.
mentioned that one.
That would probably answer the
yes,
problem.
yes.
Thank you.
Denise,
Yes.
a couple meetings ago, you spoke about, how do we want to call it? Some of the thinning out, along the Riverwalk entrance past the club of, either dying or invasive species. Has that been done?
Yes. Not totally. They've done a little bit, but I don't think they've gone out there and done, I haven't been out there in about 2 weeks. So I'll go double check. I was thinking of that today, going out and seeing how far they've gotten along with that. And I want to work with, LMP because now that Mr. Tobar has asked them to start thinning on the other side of the parking lot, that we could work jointly and make sure it's done according to their standards.
All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Denise, as a follow-up to the lady that spoke earlier and in general, is all of the landscaping and everything out there, can you tell us the status of that?
I think one of the things that she has mentioned, and it's the new stuff that was put in, I'm going to be, hopefully Keith and I can meet with LMP. I'm not sure that the irrigation is right on that because these trees, if there was the right irrigation, they shouldn't have shocked quite so much. And they did the Adenida trees and they did the ferns,
Right.
and the ferns have just shriveled. I believe they will come back, but in the meantime, we're having to look at this horrific shriveled up stuff instead of a lush green. So I'll talk with LMP and see what we can do. I know that my pool attendant a couple times a week have tried to water them to help a little bit to establish them, and it's still struggling. And in regards to her comment regarding the mismatched furniture, the furniture that was out there, those chairs, when I first got here, we had 7 of them in a pile where they had ripped, and I went to get them redone, and he said, oh, we sold out of that original fabric, but I've got one that's pretty close. So for a year and a half or a year, we started using this new fabric, and they were pretty close, but we kept them separated. And then when I went and took another group to them, they're like, oh, we sold out of that one too. So now I had 3 fabrics out there. And last year during the COVID, we tried to get as much repair done where there's only, I think we're down to 2. They're very similar. And is in regards to the furniture, that's in the reserve, and that will be able to, maybe after the tiki or something, be all replaced and remodified. Right now, budget-wise, you have to do what you have to do. I can't, get that furniture, and I'm not going to replace it. They're still in great shape,
Right.
and we can inexpensively replace the slings. And I think until this reserve committee gets that reserve where it needs to be, that's not high priority. And we try and separate underneath the little portico. Everybody wanted, they were dragging chairs under there. So we bought little mini tables and chairs for that. And they're supposed to stay under there, but sure enough, one gets dragged out and now it doesn't match. If they are in their designated area, you don't see the mismatch as much.
Yeah, one of the things that I hope is gonna happen as we move forward with the Tiki Hut is maybe some refined shade out there that we'll talk about as we move forward, because that's been a big issue all along.
For sure. Definitely.
The other thing I wanted to ask is the pool attendant, is that issue behind us out there?
We have, the two pool attendants are working all different schedules. There's a couple of days where they're together for maybe an hour or so that we can push the hours as far back into the evening as possible. And they do have other duties, so there are a few hours here and there where they're not out there. It would take hiring another person to hit the clock during all daylight hours, even more so in the summer.
But you're managing it?
We're managing it, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions for Denise? No. Keith, do you have anything to report?
Just real quick, we've talked about the irrigation, you brought it up, the expense that we're going through with the heads and all that. I would recommend that with this new reserve study, that gets put on there, because these things are 20 years old. And we went and got brand new pumps, and if you haven't been up there and saw that all with the new building and everything, go do yourself a favor and take a look. It's beautiful.
Did a great job there.
The rest of it, all right, is 20 years old. So we're patching here. Anytime one comes up, we're putting a new thing in. So yeah, I would say that the reserve study probably needs to have that taken a look at, where we're at with the irrigation stuff. And then you also brought up about the Envision with their billing. We're spending an awful lot of money with these gates here lately, all right? They're not that people are running into them, that's another issue, but the functioning of them. They're 18 years old to 20. I mean, they've been here, we've only replaced 2 in the last, I think, 4 years is what Envisions it. So the rest of them are antiquated at best. And so they're constantly, I'm having to call and some of it is to do with the loop. When your car rolls over it, it opens or closes, or so we're constantly. In fact, got a call into Paul today for the back gate. All right, that's probably the oldest one. I also have with Paul, he's supposed to have to me today, but a quote to change them all out. And because right now we're piecemealing, spend a lot of money getting them back out here to fix it, and it just, we're just putting a Band-Aid on an old leg. So sometimes it's just best to get a whole new hip put in.
Have we looked at the reserve study and see where they are in the reserve study?
No, I haven't. Haven't looked.
Oh, we can do that maybe for the next meeting.
Sure.
And but I had him go ahead and get us an estimate of where it would cost to replace it, get the brand new arms in. That I mean, these new ones are so magnificent that you got a second and a half, you can, they're up and down. And not that we need to be that fast, somebody will rip them off. But
make tailgating that much more difficult.
So, but I don't think we'll be spending the kind of money that we're bleeding now, calling them up all the time to come back and forth. So,
okay,
all right, that's all I have.
Any questions for Keith?
Thanks, Keith.
No.
Okay. I do have a few things to report. First off, Rich and I had a conference call with special counsel regarding the hydraulic fuel spill lawsuit with the city. And we received an extensive public records request. I'm not sure if the board members reviewed the records request. It is going to be extensive. So we agreed that I would go through the list and review the items that we previously provided by process of elimination. So we'll be working on that starting this week. I have received several public records requests in addition for pickleball information. We do have a homeowner that is calling Rick directly to his office. Rick knows not to, engage, but the homeowners need to come back to our office for public records requests.
That may be a moot point,
Eliminated, yeah.
as a result of Lennar's email from today.
Okay.
And I will, there is a person who is
Orchestrating.
in the midst of this, and I will contact that person after this meeting and tell them.
Okay. And then I did have something regarding the committees that I wanted to discuss with the board as well. Just for liaisons, please remind the committee members that staff does not take direction from committee members. We've had a few instances where committee members are sending us emails asking us to do several things that we really don't take direction from them for. So we do need to have that conversation, and they also need to know that agenda items cannot be added by committee members to the agenda. They should go through you as a liaison.
You're talking about our committee, our agendas here.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's all I had. Any questions for me? Just as a reminder, our next meeting will be held on Monday, March 22nd at 9:30 a.m.
And Sunshine,
8:30.
Sunshine will be at 8:30.
Oh,
We
I
have
love
something
8:30.
for 26. No.
22.
Okay.
22.
No, I said April 26th.
Oh,
It's
okay.
That's for the tennis.
It's-
That's
it's-
rules.
Right,
Rules.
that's the public hearing on the rulemaking,
Okay.
which is our second meeting in April.
Okay.
Supervisor requests or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments?
I'll just give a couple of quick comments. The March 3rd POA meeting, they dealt a great deal with fines and such, as we heard this morning with Bill and Tom being here. One of the things that came up, just as a follow-up for, we have an active contract on the Welcome Center. Melissa said at the March 3rd meeting that that may not be the case. However, they've been told that they could sell the Welcome Center at any time, and the POA should start looking for another home. And Melissa gave a report on that, so they're looking into the shopping center down by Subway and some places on Knights Trail where they may have to move the POA office because if they have to get out, it could cost a couple of $1,000s a month to find additional space. The next POA meeting is the first Wednesday in April, and the list that was passed around several months ago kicks in. I don't know who has the April meeting, but to my fellow supervisors, please be aware of your responsibilities for the POA meetings. They still are being held on Zoom. And I will say, as Andy said before, the minutes from the meeting that we had on the 22nd were a breath of fresh air. You guys haven't gotten them yet, but you will be getting them to review. The idea of skeletal minutes works really well. And what else? I'll comment to Denise that Frank Sinatra night was great. Everything went well. In my opinion, the food was great, the service was great, the entertainment was great, and everybody had a really, really good time, I think. The last thing I'll say, just as a comment, I'm getting a lot of concerns about one issue here, and it's tennis. I'm getting, there's one this morning about the condition of the courts. I've gotten concerns about the sign-up process. It seems to be a growing issue, and I think we've all been copied on all of that information, and I know that there's a meeting of the Racket Sports Committee this afternoon, and they'll probably be discussing those issues, and maybe we'll get a report on that at our upcoming meeting.
And I also sent an email over the weekend, encouraging, I know there's a lot of chatter, as you said, among the tennis committee and people, and just to get a red line, Denise, when all the music stops, so that we have something to propose for the public hearing.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other supervisor requests or
Well,
comments?
obviously,
I do.
echo,
Hold on a second,
One
Carl.
is
Carl,
Andy,
Carl,
if you,
Mr. Booker
Andy,
speaking. Can you hold on a second? You probably can't hear him.
Okay.
Go ahead. Mr. Booker.
Like Rich, I've been getting probably more than Rich as the liaison to the Racket Sports Committee. I get them 24/7. Okay, I can't even stand outside and go to the mailbox without getting complaints about the tennis issues here and all. I can't even come over to the pool. And it's just a major problem. I don't know what precipitated it, but it's a major problem, and it's going to be the topic of a serious discussion at our meeting at 2 o'clock today, the Racket Sports Committee meeting. Also, I note in the audience is there Roy Deary of Vesta. Welcome on board, as I say. Looking forward to working with your company. I know you're going to rise to the occasion because we feel we are the premier resort on the west coast of Florida. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. I will be attending your tennis committee meeting this afternoon.
Okay.
As I
Great.
told you in an email a couple weeks ago, and I did bring a tennis consultant with me as well to join that meeting, if that's acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl?
yes, several things. You should have asked this earlier. What's the status of the roll bars and the tennis court and the life standards? And the third question I had, if we have to, as Rich stated earlier, maybe have to go back to looking at pickleball near the tennis courts, what is the status of what we can do on the dog park? Because that really was a separate issue. And the last item I'd like to bring up is, Andy, if you could call me on my cell phone after the meeting, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
That number is 248-974-8480.
Okay.
Do you want to respond to his question on the roll bars?
Yes, Mr. Chorba, Mr. Chorba, the lights and the roll bars have been pushed back to April since we're in full swing. It's not really a wise thing to start all of that now because it'll include closing a lot of courts. And Ritzman has agreed that April is a good time, and I believe we've mentioned that to the chairman of the tennis facilities committee.
That was-
Rackets.
And I already prepared the contract.
Yeah, that was discussed at our last meeting.
Yes.
We said because of whatever's going on out in tennis, that it was Charlie's recommendation that we push it back a bit. So,
Yes.
yeah, so that's all been taken care of, Carl.
And what was the other question? Was that?
The lights.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
lights will
sorry,
be
talk
at the
about
same time. They're gonna do them simultaneously. It's the same company. So they'll close court one, get the lights and the fencing done. It's two different people doing it. And then they'll go 2, 3, 4, 5. We won't shut all of them down at once. It'll be 1 or 2 courts
Correct.
at the most so that it doesn't disrupt.
Right. This other question, I believe, Carl, you asked something about the dog park.
Yes.
There's been, earlier in the meeting, one of the reasons for moving forward with this appeal is that the area under the easement, the FPL easement, is still proposed for a dog park, be it pickleball or not. So we're moving forward with that appeal, and it's going to be sometime in April at this moment. It might be the third Tuesday in April, I guess, would be the next city council meeting, possibly. Don't quote me on that date, but it's not going to be in March.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay.
Any other supervisor requests or
That's it.
comments?
I just want to clarify, the March 17th,
Can I just ask, did Andy hear my question about calling me?
Yes.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify, the March 17th meeting is at 3 PM.
Oh,
I said 2.
2, yeah.
I think I did say 2. It is at 3 here. And I'll work with Keith and Denise and we'll get a message out about that.
Oh,
Well, he's got to say. Oh, okay.
Think that's it?
No, you did say two.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I realized that.
Can I move we close?
Motion to adjourn, Bruce? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Flanagan? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 12:14 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Belinda, you need me?
Mandy, thank you.
Keith.
Linda.
Could. So Denise, you're gonna send a survey?
We all try.
Well, good.
I don't have to carry protection now. To stay here.
Richie, I assume that's Mokel you're gonna call.
I think it would be a good idea if we sent a message out about the special facilities.
The special facilities meeting, and that's gonna be 17th of March.
Yes. 3 p.m. for anybody that would like to survey. I'm just worried we're gonna get a crowd and a half, and I don't know how we manage that.
Maybe.
And the other thing about that too is at 3 o'clock. Here's the problem.
Go talk.
This is gonna be set up like this. They have food service that night. We'll try and get back in here, you know, because that's gonna last.
Thank you, my
dear.
Get that donut mark off of there. So I'm
That meeting could last 2 hours, and that's into food service, and they're trying to redo this whole room, and then it won't happen. I think that meeting should be on Monday or Tuesday.
Make it a
Well,
thought.
we have to have,
They-
the meeting's advertised. It's advertised, and it's not a decision. Well,
They don't want to have vendors and good advice.
and we have those.
So, yeah, well, they kind of insinuated that they were recommending
What do we want to represent?
somebody goes and buys it from
Right, yeah, it's not, yeah,
It's really, 3 or 4,000.
I mean, it's an advisory committee meeting. The meeting has been advertised.
Yeah. I would, because a lot of times we're doing special advertising, and it's getting to be,
Good morning.
yeah.
You know, the last time I was here, which was a couple weeks ago when I left, there was
Okay.
there was an
I
accident.
think that's a.
It had an
Okay, I gotta run, but I'll be right.
Yeah, I will be here for your meeting at 2. Where are you gonna meet? In here?
You're here, right?